Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Chris, friends, students, faculty, alumni, family, community members, staff. It's really such a tremendous honor to be here today and incredibly moving to have all of you here to share this exciting moment in the life of my family's arrival here in this wonderful Purple Valley. As many of you know and have heard repeatedly today, the organizing theme for today's programming and events has been Inside, Outside. And I'll come back in a moment to my thoughts on how we chose that theme with the faculty and some ways that it applies to our work at Williams. But before I do that, I want to start by acknowledging that this entire process of becoming your 18th president has involved a massive and exciting shift as I moved from outside Williams to very, very much inside. It would be hard to overstate just how moved I am to be before you today, and just how fully embraced Steve, Lev, Ava, and I feel by the Williams community, and we really thank you for that. Thank you for this welcome and this exceptional opportunity. Thank you, too, to the loved ones who came to share this moment, one from across the Atlantic. Thank you to my teachers and my mentors, several here in this room who modeled the habits of work and mind that enabled me to get here, including my doctoral advisor, Todd Endelman, to important colleague members at Brown from when I started there, Calvin Goldscheider and Saul Olian, and the provost, Rick Locke, who's guided me here to this moment today. It is deeply moving to have them here and everybody else who has come to be here with me. And of course, to President Christina Paxson, from whom you've just heard, who has been a true source of inspiration. I would certainly not be here today had Chris not appointed me Dean of the College in Brown in 2014. And her high standards, her work ethic, and her vision are a model of inspired academic leadership that I will work hard to emulate at Williams. And I will just add that if becoming a college president is a daunting adventure, I feel that I'm following in fantastic footsteps, and I learned everything I know from Christina Paxson. So it was a pathway that was mapped out for me, and therefore feel quite carefully guided to this next step. It was not easy to leave Chris or Brown, my home for the last 20 years, but maybe the distance is not so great. Chris just described some of the many historical ties between Brown and Williams. Those ties are embodied in the sight of so many of my friends from Brown University who are here, including Janet Cooper Nelson, from you've heard, alongside my newer friends from Williams. And among the latter, I certainly must count Michael Eisensons and the William Trustees and Search Committee, and must thank you for putting such faith in me with your choice. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. By virtue of their decision, I join a distinguished line of Williams presidents who have stewarded this institution through centuries. A number of them are here today, and I want to acknowledge them for their contributions and the welcome that they have extended to me. John Chandler, Frank Oakley, Bill Wagner, Adam Falk, and Tiku Majumdar, as well as two others who unfortunately could not be with us today, but who have been equally gracious in extending a welcome to me, Morty Shapiro and Carl Vogt. As Michael Eisenson described in his remarks earlier, the visionary work that you, my predecessors, have done has positioned Williams exceptionally well to extend our already long tradition of excellence in liberal arts education. Williams College, like its peers, has sought to introduce students to the breadth of human knowledge, while also encouraging them to explore particular areas of interest in greater depth. The goal has been to inspire students to engage in practices of lifelong learning through channeling their curiosity, honing their analytic skills, and challenging their assumptions. There's a practical aspect, too. Schools like Williams are not just sites of intellectual exploration. In the modern United States, we are also expected to equip students for practical careers. If you study Williams' history, you see how quickly we have gone from preparing students to embark on relatively settled and predictable career paths to entering job markets that may be entirely different from one year to the next. And as my own children enter into this phase of their higher education, my son just beginning that adventure, and my daughter a few years behind, it's astounding to think about the changing environment in which they are going to enter and the ways in which the careers that they might choose to pursue may not, in fact, have even been invented yet. Moreover, we do this work in a distinctly American mode that sees education as a combination of intellectual, personal, and professional development. The ambitious goal is to teach students that there are intrinsic connections between being an economic and social actor and a moral and political agent, an idea we would do well to stress all the more strongly in the current environment. This is one of the many ways in which the theme for today's events, Inside, Outside, relates to the idea of a Williams education. We strive to help students appreciate the relationship between their external lives as professionals, citizens, and neighbors, and their internal happiness and health. We work toward this goal through the close professor-student bond that flourishes both inside and outside our classrooms. Indeed, teaching, as was reaffirmed to me during my discussions with dozens of faculties this summer, is of paramount importance to the scholars who make up this community. It is a mission that I embrace wholeheartedly as an Oberlin alumna and the daughter of educators. Indeed, one of my earliest memories is attending my father's college classes, over there, as he experimented with new ways of teaching modern drama. He knew that to inspire students, you had to recognize their insights, no matter how developed, as contributing to a collective project of joint learning. That is why I, as a 10-year-old girl, could attend his classes and participate. As long as I read the play and listened closely, I was welcome to join the conversation. From this experience, I learned that we all have something to contribute, and that the classroom is a space to test ideas, take risks, and explore. I often wonder what lessons the students took from seeing me there too. I will note that my father stopped the practice of bringing me when I started to look a little more like them and a little older. So we both feared that it might start to not look so cute at that point. But joking aside, my father's courses taught me at a young age how essential the professor was to setting a tone in the class that encouraged the most ambitious learning environment. At Williams, this commitment to teaching sits at the core of our school. Indeed, one such Williams faculty member and former president, John Chandler, noted in his own induction speech almost exactly 45 years ago, and I quote, "The teachers who are the most committed to the importance of the issues in their field will want to lead their students beyond the areas of safe generalization to the more confused and puzzling questions that may be difficult to formulate, much less answer." One of the considerable strengths of this college, with its human scale and community spirit, is that students and teachers may easily step out of their respective professional roles and relate to one another simply as human beings. When friendship becomes the broader context of the teacher-student relationship, then the larger perplexity and questions that are on the minds of students find a natural forum that augments the function of the classroom. And as a side note, I would just mention that, again, talking to faculty as I interviewed and chatted with chairs and others across the campus this summer, I heard faculty say again and again how much they valued the experience of working with Williams undergrads in the friendships and conversations that they formed there. In fact, that students have reaffirmed for me in conversations that I have had with them. This ethos, then, is central to the Williams Project, if I can call it that, a project that builds on the faculty-student bond to make clear to students that learning is a lifelong process that imparts skills that they can use to thrive in any setting, that increasingly asks them to embrace our responsibility to the natural world in which we live and on which we depend, and that encourages them to interact from people from a broad spectrum of backgrounds. That latter goal is particularly dear to my heart. It also points to another way in which ideas of inside and outside are relevant to Williams and to my presidency. As some of you may have read in the Williams magazine, I'm the granddaughter of Austrian Jewish refugees who fled with their 9-month-old daughter, my mother, via Hamburg in 1939 on the SS St. Louis. The last boat to leave Germany carrying Jews, the ship was turned away from its destination port in Cuba at the last minute. After also being denied entrance by the United States and Canada, and with Florida still visible from the deck, the captain brought the ship about and returned his 937 passengers to Europe. As distressing as that rejection was, they were saved from a grim fate by 4 countries that took them in: Great Britain, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. My family was exceptionally lucky to be among those welcomed to Great Britain, which was the only of the 4 not to be later occupied by the Nazis. Many others have tried to leave but were prevented, often at the cost of their lives. I was named after my great-grandmother, Mandel, who was killed in Poland, along with 3 generations of her family. The S that I always include when I sign my name, Maud Strum Mandel, is a testament to her and the millions of others who perished. In that way, I am connected to both those who found freedom and those to whom it was denied. These histories of my mother's narrow escape and of the murder of her extended family were formative to my thinking about our collective obligations to inclusion and justice. Although historical details may vary, many families, regardless of backgrounds, have their own experience illustrating the precariousness of liberty and the dangers of life on the margins. Subsequent chapters in my family's history have taught me the power of fighting to protect rights for all. Having survived that arduous ocean voyage on the St. Louis and finally migrating to the United States at 9 years old, my mother dedicated her adult life to extending opportunities to others. As an expert on and proponent of women's political leadership, her efforts and those of other feminist activists of her generation helped clear the path that led me onto this stage before all of you today. I would like to pause briefly on that point. As you know, Williams is celebrating 50 years of coeducation. So while at one point in recent history, I, as a woman, could not have matriculated here, I now stand before you as the first woman president of a school that graduates hundreds of women every year and that has committed itself to providing access and opportunities to students of all kinds from the widest array of backgrounds. Those profound changes happened within living memory. There are women from that first entering class who are in the room today. And as they can attest, it all happened without us losing sight of what makes Williams, Williams. While we have a great deal of work ahead, and always will, I am inspired by this college's recognition that in order to reach our collective aspirations, we must not isolate, but connect, must not marginalize, but embrace, must not exclude, but admit and nurture talent, whatever its origins and forms. The fight for opportunity and access is never over, nor does it proceed in a straight line. The German and Austrian Jews of my grandparents' generation enjoyed civil liberties, professional opportunities, and economic stability that were unimaginable to their own grandparents. But that civil society was demolished by a wave of expropriation and imprisonment and mass murder. And then, just as quickly in historical terms, Germany turned back toward a European model of democracy, an imperfect one, but certainly light years away from the National Socialist past. Even for someone like me, who's made a life of studying history, these vacillations are striking. Past performance has not predicted future results in any linear way. We humans are much more complex than that. France, the country on which I have focused my scholarly work, is another prime illustration. France was simultaneously the first country in the world to politically emancipate its Jewish minorities and the first European nation to voluntarily deliver its Jewish residents to the Nazis, not to mention its role in the subjugation of millions of colonial subjects in Africa and elsewhere at the very moment when it was extending democratic practices at home. So my family's biography and my scholarship both point out the simultaneous promise and fragility of liberty and opportunity. This notion of who is inside and who is outside has real-world implications. When we teach students to debate, learn from, and live with one another, we are giving them more than an education in chemistry or art history or political science, although those are absolutely invaluable. We are expanding opportunities, bringing together the best minds, and equipping them to take on the most pressing challenges. We are redefining who belongs and who has a voice and a say in how things are done. Actually, in college, I sometimes think we're teaching them that everyone has a say in everything. But I would rather start there than in any other extreme. Social science teaches us that more diverse teams are likely to come up with more creative solutions to complex problems. Likewise, diverse learning communities need to ask members to contribute their own views and to learn from their peers. These can be hard lessons to teach and to learn. They test students' assumptions and beliefs, and sometimes even the ideals they hold sacred. That is true on all sides. Whether a student comes away with their faith reaffirmed or reconsidered, the very experience of being tested asks them to become the best version of themselves. It is this commitment that makes learning communities thrilling and rewarding places to work and live, because they are at once heterogeneously alive while also always imperfect and searching. Our success in that messy enterprise depends on us agreeing to look at each other as fellow human beings. Williams has this vital humanity at its core. It has been nurtured and fed by our liberal arts values, which include our commitment to evidence and attention, to the benefits of cogent analysis and argument, to economy and elegance of expression, to shared governance and respect for the spirit of community, to the potential of our students as both brilliant minds and whole people capable of serving humanity at its highest level. And that brings me to my final way of expressing my gratitude to you today, and perhaps the most meaningful one. Having now literally said thank you many times, and having also entrusted you with some of my personal stories, I also vow to show you my appreciation by continuing to dedicate myself to the college and to all of you. I intend to demonstrate through my own service the passion I feel for this adventure we are on together, and the appreciation I hold in my heart for the chance you have given me to lead Williams on the next leg of its wonderful, momentous, and essential journey. Thank you very much.